Where is Waldo? I mean, where is Wagner? That's right. No one knows where Wagner is right now, and no one knows what Wagner is doing. You know, the guys who were trying to reach Moscow and nearly tried to collapse the Russian government, but then they said, never mind, this is a bad idea. They're technically supposed to be in Belarus right now under their peace agreement that they had with the president of Belarus and the president of Russia, Mr. Vladimir Putin. But again, where is Wagner? You guys let me know in a comment down below, what do you think Wagner's up to and what do you think Wagner's trying to do right now? But as far as this headline right here, no one from Wagner has visited barracks offered by Belarus, Ministry Advisor says. That's right. Belarus has offered up Soviet-style barracks, if you will, and they were offering this space as almost like a safe space for Wagner to relocate or to reorganize within Belarus, and they're going to operate out of Belarus and continue operations as normal. Again, let me say this. This was part of the peace negotiations. This is part of the peace deal where Wagner fighters who were operating inside of Russia and doing illegal activities, they were going to be pardoned and they could either go up into Belarus and continue operations with Wagner, or they can just sign up with the Russian military, or they can just disappear forever. Okay, so first things first, this obviously is a little embarrassing for the president of Belarus because he was really adamant and proud how he was able to squash the Wagner revolt. And you know what? We'll even house Wagner. Send him up to Belarus. We're going to set up some really bad camps for you. Do you really think Wagner's going to want to come up to Belarus and hang out in these Soviet-era tents? Let's remember, these Wagner fighters, a lot of them are Russians. You know, they want to be near their families. They want to be near their friends. Why would they go hang out in a campsite up in Belarus next to no one? This also is probably really confusing for Russia, to say the least, because you have to consider, again, Putin was on state television blasting Wagner, saying, you guys will pay for what you did. You took out actual Russian Air Force pilots. Like, you have to pay for this. And then they pardoned them and said, yeah, go up to Belarus, disperse, or join the military. And now all of a sudden, Wagner is just doing what Wagner wants?
Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of Russia's Wagner Group mercenary organization, is said to have returned to Russia from exile in Belarus after the stunning attempted mutiny he staged in Russia last month. And it's still not clear what ultimate fate awaits him or his mercenaries. The exile was one of the conditions that ended the revolt. President Alexander Lukashenko announced Thursday that Prigozhin had left Belarus and was in St. Petersburg or Moscow. Flight tracking data shows a private jet linked to Prigozhin flew from St. Petersburg to Moscow on Wednesday and was continuing to move around the country Thursday.
Okay, so obviously I'm playing a little bit when I say, where's Waldo? As in, where's Wagner? Because we do know where Wagner is, we just don't know what Wagner is doing. In fact, Wagner is just hanging out in Russia in their already established camps before or prior when they were going to start their march to Moscow. In fact, in this highlighted portion right here from an advisor, they have not come, they have not looked. And from the president of Belarus, he even said Prigozhin was in Russia with thousands of fighters, and that the question of their relocation had yet to be settled. Also in this highlighted portion, from the president of Belarus, he sort of spilled the tea or the coffee as to what a Wagner fighter was doing or where they are located, and this also sort of backs or gives evidence that the situation is a little odd, especially for Russia. Right here it says, he said Wagner fighters were still at the permanent camps where they had been located since they left the front, and that he expected to discuss the matter in a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Okay, so this whole thing is extremely comical to me because you have to consider the last thing Putin wants to be doing is be on a phone call with the president of Belarus while Putin is trying to navigate and to restructure his military and try to counter an offensive from Ukraine. They're trying to hold their line. So obviously discussing Wagner and what Wagner's doing, and now this is being blasted to the public. Why would Putin want this being blasted to the public, and why would he want to deal with this? Now, in this highlighted portion, we also get insight as to the living conditions Wagner would be accepted into or be living at and operating at within Belarus. And I have to say, as a former soldier, I'd be kind of annoyed if I left my home country and then all of a sudden I get put into Soviet-era tents. In the highlighted portion, Lukashenko said Belarus had offered Wagner the discussed Soviet-era military quarters near Tcel, but added that Wagner has a different version for deployment, which probably means, no, we want actual living conditions. We want a bathhouse. We want like a pub down the road. If I had to guess, I mean, let's remember Wagner. These are professional military fighters, and they don't want to be living in these tents. This isn't the movies, people. These are actual real people who probably outside of their lifestyle in Wagner, they just want to chill out, just like a lot of most modern day fighters. We also have 300 tents at the camp that have been put up in an exercise and were not connected to Wagner. Again, I don't see Wagner going really out of their way and paying a lot of money, all this logistics to move up to Belarus, and they're living in these tents. I guarantee that's probably one of the reasons why Wagner doesn't want to be up in Belarus right now. So the question is, where is Waldo? Where is Wagner? We do know they are in Russia. They are still operating within Russia. We do know that Wagner still has operations going on in Syria, still going on in Africa. In fact, they are making massive moves in the country of Mali. They managed to kick out the UN, and now Mali will be totally dependent on these fighters, Wagner, within Mali to secure their country. And also consider Wagner is getting $200 million to be operating in Mali. So obviously they want to kick everybody out and take the money for themselves and all the assets for themselves. So again, we do know they're operating in Africa. We do know that there's space for them in Belarus. We do know that they're still operating in Mali and other countries of Africa, Syria. So what exactly is going on? Again, leave your comments down below and leave your opinions down below, because I got news for you. I'm making this YouTube video and I have no idea what the heck is going on. I don't think that the whole march to Moscow and Wagner operating in Russia was fake, considering Wagner actually took out real Russian military members. They took out Air Force pilots, which is actually, evidence to prove that the whole revolt was true. Nonetheless, I don't know what's going on with Wagner. Again, if I had to speculate, I think they're just going to still operate within Russia. Let's remember, Wagner also brings money to Russia. They're not just taking that full cut from Mali, operations in Africa. They still have contracts under Russia. So we don't know what's going to happen. Many people thought they were going to be operating in Belarus and do some sort of flanking maneuver from the top of Belarus, push down towards Kiev, Ukraine, the capital of Ukraine, but that doesn't look like it's happening right now. But nonetheless, who knows? I don't know. You guys let me know. Comments down below. Again, I think Wagner will just still operate out of Russia, and operations will continue as normal, and they'll just sort of blend in and stay quiet for the time being.